You know we can't afford it. You have to take us. Have to? My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. Kate jumped in. It's perfect timing. Dave and I can take 2 weeks off. Poured a glass of wine, and was just settling in to watch a movie when my doorbell rang. Not once but repeatedly, like someone was leaning on it. Through the peephole, I saw my parents and Kate standing in the hallway. Dad was red-faced, Mom looked like she'd been crying, and Kate had her arms crossed over her chest. For a moment I considered pretending I wasn't home. But they'd see my car in the parking lot. Taking a deep breath, I opened the door. So you were hiding from us, Mom said, pushing past me into the apartment. Dad and Kate followed. I'm not hiding. I just needed some time alone. Kate scoffed. You sure seem to need a lot of alone time lately. They arranged themselves in my living room, Mom and Dad on the couch, Kate pacing by the window. I remained standing, arms crossed. Sheila, Mom began, her voice trembling. You've inflicted severe psychological trauma on all of us with your selfishness. The least you can do is pay for us to go where you're going. It's only fair after what you put us through. Kate stepped forward. Actually, you can only make amends if you pay for all of us, Mom, Dad, Dave, the kids and me. First-class tickets obviously, and the best rooms at the hotel. My jaw dropped. Are you serious right now? Of course we're serious, Kate said. It's the least you can do. And that's when it hit me, like a lightning bolt of clarity, cutting through years of fog. My family didn't give a hoot about spending time with me. My longing for some alone time didn't sting them one bit. They just saw me as their personal cash machine, a dependable wellspring for free vacations and financial backing. All those years, I'd been feeling guilty for craving space, for pausing before whipping out my credit card, and for just wanting to kick back on the beach with a book instead of babysitting my niece and nephew. And all along they'd been using me. When they arrived at the airport, they were surprised and I had 50 missed texts. Their expressions changed instantly. Mom's tears dried up, Dad's scowl softened, and Kate's tight-lipped anger morphed into a smug smile. I knew you'd come around, Mom said, patting my hand. You've always been such a great daughter at heart. Kate whipped out her phone. Let me check my calendar to see if those dates still work for us. And Sheila, book first class only, okay? Dave's back has been acting up and he needs the leg room. They continued making demands as if I hadn't just been manipulated and emotionally blackmailed, as if their behavior was completely normal. I'll arrange an unforgettable trip for the family, I said, my voice steady despite the anger bubbling inside me. After they left, I sat in silence for a long time. I should have felt guilty about what I was planning, but instead I felt lighter than I had in years. The next morning, I called a real estate agent and found a new apartment across town. I paid the deposit that afternoon. Over the next few days, I quietly moved my essential belongings to the new place. I arranged for mail forwarding and updated my address at work and with my bank. Meanwhile, my parents and Kate continued their preparations, completely unaware. Mom sent me photos of new swimsuits they bought. Do you think this swimsuit will look cute on the beach in Hawaii? Kate texted, along with pictures of the kids' suitcases. The kids are super excited. I responded with thumbs up emojis and heart reactions, playing along with a charade. Each message reinforced that I was making the right decision. 2 days before the planned flight, Kate gave me a call. Just making sure everything's all set with the tickets and the hotel, she said, skipping any kind of greeting. Everything's fine, I replied. We'll all meet at the airport on Friday, Terminal B, 9 a.m. Good. There was a pause and then she added, you know, Sheila, I'm glad you finally understand what family means, how important it is to help each other out. I bit my tongue to keep from saying something I'd regret and just said, and just so you know, Kate continued, I'm already thinking about our Christmas trip. Dave and I were looking at ski resorts in Colorado. You'll cover that one too, of course. My grip on the phone tightened involuntarily. We'll deal with that later, I somehow managed to choke out. Cool. See you Friday. She hung up before I had a chance to reply. I shook my head in disbelief. They still didn't get it. They still thought they could dictate my life, my finances, my vacations. On Friday morning, I woke up at 5 a.m. I already arranged for a taxi to pick me up at 6 o'clock, 3 hours before I told my family to meet me at the airport. I took one last look around my old apartment, now nearly empty except for the furniture that came with it. As the taxi pulled away, I felt a momentary pang of doubt. Was I doing the right thing? Was I burning bridges forever? Then I remembered Kate's casual assumption that I'd fund yet another vacation, Mom's fake tears, Dad's demands, years of financial and emotional manipulation. Yes, I was doing the right thing. For once I was choosing myself. At the airport, I checked in quickly and headed to my gate. No one questioned me or stopped me. No one called my name. I boarded the plane and settled into my window seat, feeling both nervous and exhilarated. As the plane took off, I imagined my family arriving at the airport in a few hours. They'd wait, growing increasingly impatient. They'd call my phone, which was now set to do not disturb mode. Eventually they'd try to check in, only to discover there were no tickets in their names. The thought made me smile as the plane climbed through the clouds. When we finally touched down in Kona, I took a huge, deep breath of that sweet, fragrant tropical air. At long last, I was in paradise. The hotel had arranged a shuttle and 40 minutes later, I arrived at the secluded property Jenna had recommended. It was even more beautiful than the photos. A small, elegant building nestled between lush jungle and a private beach cove. You know what? You're right, I said slowly. Like you can click on share more to see if there is a part to update. My entitled family said I could never go on vacation without them. You have to take us with you, so I had to agree but changed my plans. My room was simple but perfect. Clean white linens, bamboo furniture, a private lanai overlooking the ocean. I quickly unpacked my bags, slipped into a sundress, and made my way down to the beach. The sand felt warm and soft between my toes, and the waves rolled in with a calming rhythm, crashing gently onto the shore. I sat there until sunset, watching the sky transform into brilliant shades of orange and pink. No one demanded my attention. No one asked me to take a photo of them or complain that it was too hot or too windy. It was just me, the ocean and the sky. Only when darkness fell did I remember to turn on my phone. It immediately exploded with notifications. 37 missed calls and over 60 text messages, all from my family. I scrolled through them, watching the progression from confusion to panic to rage. Mom, 8:45 a.m. We're at Terminal B. Where are you? Dad, 9:12 a.m. The check-in desk says there are no tickets in our names. Call us immediately. Kate, 9:30 a.m. This isn't funny, Sheila. The kids are getting restless. Mom, 10:15 a.m. I can't believe you would do this to your own family after everything we've done for you. The messages grew increasingly hostile as they realized what happened. My father called me ungrateful, my mother said I was dead to her, and Kate's messages were the worst, filled with curses and vicious wishes that I would slip off a cliff or drown in the ocean. I should have felt guilty. Instead, I felt relieved. They had shown their true colors, confirming what I'd finally realized: they didn't love me. They loved what I could provide for them. I turned off my phone again and went to the hotel restaurant for dinner. The freshly caught fish was absolutely delicious. I savored every single bite as I watched the moonlight shimmer and dance on the waves. This was exactly what a vacation was supposed to feel like. The next 2 weeks were everything I'd hoped for. I swam in the crystal clear water, hiked to a hidden waterfall, took a sunrise yoga class on the beach, and spent hours reading under a palm tree. I made friends with a retired couple from Oregon and a solo traveler from Australia. We had dinner together several times, sharing stories and laughs without any underlying tension or manipulation. On my last day, I sat on the beach at sunrise, feeling more at peace than I had in years. I would go back to my new apartment, to my job, to my life. But I would never go back to being the family ATM. The flight home felt different than the flight out. Instead of excitement, I felt resolve. I knew there would be consequences to face, but I was ready. When I landed, I hopped into a taxi and headed straight to my new apartment. It was still pretty much empty, furnished only with the bare essentials I'd moved in before I left. I spent the evening sorting through the things I'd brought with me and making a list of the items I needed to buy. I had just fallen asleep when my phone rang. It was the landlord of my old apartment. Miss Harmon, I'm sorry to bother you so late, but there's been an incident at your old unit. Someone has sprayed foam all over your door. I've called the police. I knew immediately who was responsible. Check the security footage, I said. I think you'll find it was either my sister, Kate, or her husband Dave. They're both in their early 40s. She has shoulder-length brown hair. He's balding with glasses. The police are reviewing the footage now. Should I tell them how to reach you? Here's the corrected version of your post, with proper punctuation and some minor edits. The next morning, I took decisive action. I changed my phone number, deleted my rarely used social media accounts, and went to my office to speak with security. I'm having some family issues, I explained to the head of security. If anyone named Linda or Robert Harmon, or Kate and Dave Wilson, tries to see me, please don't let them in. For 2 weeks there was silence. No contact from my family, no further incidents. I began to settle into my new life, enjoying the peace and freedom. I furnished my apartment, joined a yoga studio, and even went on a date with a man I met at a coffee shop. Then came the email from my cousin Megan. Sheila, I know about what happened with the Hawaii trip, and Linda has been telling everyone how you framed them. I thought you should know that Kate and Dave were arrested yesterday. The security footage from your old apartment clearly shows them spraying foam all over your door. They got hit with a fine for vandalism. On top of that, your parents are going around telling everyone they've disowned you. I'm really sorry things have turned out so messy. If you need anything at all, just let me know. Love, Megan. I stared at the screen for a long time, trying to identify what I felt. Sadness? Anger? Guilt? Nothing. I felt nothing. It was as if a wound that had been festering for years had finally been cleaned out. It hurt, but it was a necessary pain, the kind that leads to healing. My family hadn't seen me as a person with needs and desires of my own for a long time. To them, I was a resource to be used, an ATM to fund their wants, a babysitter to mind their children. And now that I'd stopped fulfilling that role, they had no use for me. I made myself a cup of tea and sat on my still new couch, reflecting on the journey that had brought me here. 3 months ago, I couldn't imagine cutting ties with my entire immediate family. I'd been trapped in a cycle of guilt and obligation for so long that I couldn't see how unhealthy it had become. The next day at work, my boss picked up on the change in me. Sheila, you seem different after your vacation, she remarked during our weekly check-in. You're more focused and more confident. I am, I replied. I made some difficult but necessary changes in my personal life. She nodded. It shows. In fact, I've been meaning to talk to you about the senior marketing position that's opening up next month. I think you should apply. A promotion. 6 months ago I would have hesitated, worried about having less time to deal with family demands. Now I smiled. I'd love to. That evening I received another email from Megan, asking if I wanted to get coffee over the weekend. It was nice to know that not all family connections were severed. Megan had always been kind and reasonable, never asking me for money or making demands. We met up at a cafe close to my new apartment on Saturday morning. Hey, you look great, she said, really looking me over. You seem happier. I am, I confessed. So, how bad is the family gossip about me? Pretty bad, Megan admitted. Aunt Linda is telling everyone you promised them a trip and then abandoned them at the airport as some kind of cruel joke. Uncle Robert is focusing on all the ways they supported you growing up, conveniently forgetting the years you've been supporting them. And Kate, she trailed off. Kate is being Kate, I finished for her. Yeah. She and Dave are furious about the fines they had to pay. They're claiming you set them up somehow. I shook my head in disbelief. They vandalized my door and got caught on camera. How exactly did I set that up? It doesn't make sense, Megan replied with a small smile. You know, they've never taken responsibility for anything. We chatted for another hour, catching up on each other's lives. Before we left, Megan hesitated. They're telling everyone they've disowned you, but I bet they're secretly expecting you to come begging for forgiveness someday. You know, when you think you need the family or start feeling lonely. They're probably sitting around waiting for you to apologize. I considered this. And if I don't? Then I guess we'll find out if they meant it about disowning you, she said. She squeezed my hand. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. It wasn't healthy the way they treated you. The following weeks fell into a new rhythm. I threw myself into work, prepared for the promotion interview, and slowly built a life that wasn't centered around my family's demands. My bank account started to fatten up since I wasn't constantly shelling out money for family vacations and bailing them out of financial jams. My weekends finally became all mine. I filled them with activities I actually liked doing, instead of being stuck at those obligatory family dinners. I got the promotion at work. I went on a date with a kind, funny architect named Michael. I bought new furniture for my apartment and painted the walls a soft blue that I always loved but my mother would have hated. 6 months after Hawaii, Megan invited me to her son's birthday party. I hesitated, knowing other family members would be there. Kate and your parents won't be coming, she assured me. But some of the cousins will. They've heard both sides by now and can make up their own minds. The party was awkward at first. Cousin Steve avoided eye contact, and his wife whispered something to her friend while looking in my direction. But Aunt Carol gave me a warm hug, and Uncle Phil acted as if nothing had changed. By the end of the evening, the tension had mostly dissolved, replaced by the normal dynamics of an extended family gathering. As I was leaving, Aunt Carol pulled me aside. I should have said something years ago, she said, her voice low. The way they treated you wasn't right, taking advantage of your kindness. Why on earth didn't you? I couldn't stop myself from asking. She sighed. Family politics, not wanting to create drama, the usual excuses. I'm sorry, Sheila. I nodded, accepting her apology without fully absolving her. Have you heard from them lately? Your parents are struggling a bit financially without your help, though they'd never admit it. Kate and Dave's business is having problems again. They tried asking your cousin Steve for a loan last month. I felt a momentary flicker of concern before reminding myself that these were adults who had made their own choices. Their financial problems weren't my responsibility. That night I thought about how much had changed in less than a year. I'd transformed from being my family's personal cash dispenser to living life exactly the way I wanted. It sure as heck hadn't been a smooth transition. There were still times when I felt a pang of sadness over the relationships I'd had to let go of, mourning the family I'd always hoped for instead of the one I was actually born into. But there was also peace. No more anxiety about checking my bank balance after a family visit. No more dreading vacations that should have been enjoyable. No more walking on eggshells to avoid triggering demands and manipulation. I received a Christmas card from Megan the following week, with a note saying she hoped I would join them for their annual New Year's Eve party. Michael asked if I wanted to spend Christmas Day with his family. My book club planned a gift exchange for our December meeting. Life was continuing, evolving into something new, something healthier. As I set Megan's card on my mantle, it hit me that I hadn't spared a thought for my parents or Kate in days. The searing pain of their betrayal had mellowed into an occasional twinge. I didn't dread checking my email anymore, scared to find messages from them. And I no longer spent time in my head, rehearsing explanations or coming up with defenses. I was free, not just from their financial demands but from the emotional weight I carried for so long. Standing in my peaceful apartment, surrounded by choices I'd made for myself, I finally understood, family isn't about blood or obligation. It's about mutual respect, support and love, all the things I'd never really had with my parents and sister.